1960 was a great year for Westminster, and future historians will remember it when they come to write the history of the school. 400 years ago, Queen Elizabeth I refounded the school and gave it the buildings which still nestle under the shadow of the Abbey at the heart of the empire. In Little Dean's Yard, boys pass underneath Lord Burlington's gateway on their way to Latin prayers. And as masters come up, the boy on the right, Monos, caps them. Latin prayers go on under the roof, 400 years old. In the war, irreparable damage was done to college and to school too. But with the coming of peace, school has been restored, and once more it is possible to hold Westminster's oddest custom, the pancake grease. A ceremonial procession arrives. The Dean of Westminster and the headmaster, preceded by the college beadle and followed by the school chef. Why all this ceremony, you may ask? Well, it's in quest of a pancake, or rather a piece of a pancake, transformed into a glittering prize when the winner surrenders it to the Dean of Westminster in return for a golden guinea. The chef throws the pancake. But at last time is called, and the winner extracts what he can from the recesses of his person and goes up to the Dean of Westminster to receive his prize. Westminster is a mixture of old and new, a stone's throw from Parliament, neither schools, new laboratories. Steel frame and plate glass with the latest equipment, the sort of equipment that make bursars sigh for the good old days when the most expensive piece of educational equipment was a Little and Scott lexicon. And here, boys congregate outside the 14th century Abbott's Dining Hall, College Hall as it is now called, before lunch. Once a year, a ceremonial dinner takes place, election dinner, to which the Dean of Christ Church, Oxford, and the Master of Trinity College, Cambridge, have been coming now for just over 400 years. After the dinner, Latin and Greek epigrams are recited by the boys who are leaving school. On June the 1st, 1960, a great service took place in the Abbey, attended by the Archbishop of Canterbury, in thanksgiving for the school's 4 centuries of history. Only a stone's throw from the Abbey is Dean's Yard, with the house which from 1461 to 1939 was the residence of the headmaster. Passing it, boys turn through the 14th century archway and go into historic Ashburnham House, the wartime headquarters of the Churchill Club, where the school library is now housed. They read under the portrait of the foundress, and some of those at the school she founded. John Carleton, diplomat, art collector, and friend of Rubens. Christopher Wren, who produced the first design for college dormitory. Thomas Pelham Hollis, Duke of Newcastle, the Prime Minister. The famous, or infamous, Judge Jeffreys of the Bloody Assize. John Dryden, poet, poet laureate. Warren Hastings of Indian fame. Robert Southey, expelled from school, who survived to become another poet laureate. And dramatists. Here is our earliest, Ben Jonson, and our latest, Peter Ustinov. You may think that drama at Westminster runs to type. What about historians? Here perhaps the most famous of them all, Gibbon of The Decline and Fall. The Armed Forces, Admiral Keppel. Lord Raglan, Commander-in-Chief in the Crimea. General John Burgoyne, who by his bad generalship in the War of Independence deserves to be remembered as a founder of the USA. And finally, Edward Wortley Montagu, 18th century eccentric, who became a Mohammedan and was the first Englishman to be vaccinated. Dressed through the ages, a Queen scholar, even today in knee breeches for court occasions. But the formal everyday dress of boys, top hat and tailcoat, has given way in these days to plain grey suits. Here in his study is the captain of boats, or head of the water as he's called at Westminster, preparing his lists for the next day. On his shelf are the water ledgers, interesting volumes recording the school's rowing activities for the last 150 years. Some of these activities are of considerable interest. Here, on a ceremonial occasion, the first 8 rose down to Black Rod Stairs, the water stairs of the Palace of Westminster. It's not at all an easy business, landing at these stairs, particularly if the weather isn't good. And in May 1960, the weather was bad. The rain poured in torrents. But Black Rod, Sir Brian Horrocks, was not deterred. In his court dress, he greets the 8. In Vincent Square, the school's playing fields, the combined cadet forces are inspected by His Royal Highness the Duke of Gloucester, the uncle of the Queen. It was garden party weather that day. In a pavilion, the boys' work is inspected by the Duke. Vincent Square is 10 acres of open land in the heart of London. 150 years ago, Dean Vincent, who had been headmaster of the school, enclosed this land, paying £3 for a horse and plough to drive a furrow round it. And never was £3 better spent. The great event of the year was the visit of Her Majesty the Queen on November the 11th. The Queen, accompanied by the Duke of Edinburgh, passes up school to unveil a Latin inscription recording the destruction of the school built by Queen Elizabeth I and its reopening by Queen Elizabeth II. She is greeted in a Latin address.
More West Monasteriensi vivat conclamantibus salutator is, alia edificia nostra obeas, et antiqua.
And amidst the cheers of the boys, she left the building and proceeded to college, the house of the 40 Queen Scholars. There she was shown a royal pardon under the Great Seal, given in 1679 by King Charles II to all the 40 boys in that house for murder of a bailiff in Dean's Yard. The time for departure. The Queen says goodbye to the headmaster and the undermaster and the dean. And amid renewed cheers, Queen Elizabeth II leaves the school founded 400 years ago by Queen Elizabeth I.